Alrighty. Boy, it's been a minute. Let me share this real quick. Get some people rolling in here, hopefully. It's kind of I guess it's kind of a risk to do a live stream on Monday at 11 o'clock when I haven't done one in ages, but here we go. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. Hey, Nick. Right away, we got Nick. Everything's going to be okay. Nick's here. Nothing to worry about. Things are good. Things are great, actually. Really good. Yeah, have I've been thinking about it for a while actually that I don't do who's this kid? I know. Tell me about it. Good morning, John. Um I don't do live streams all that much anymore. And so I thought, well, let's change that. And so bring that back into the swing of things. So, yeah, that'll be fun. Um Yeah, and I mean the for today, we can talk about anything hi-fi. You guys usually have questions or whatever. I don't have a specific, thing in mind that I wanted to discuss. It's been so long since I've done a live stream. I figured that maybe you folks just want to catch up. I'm sure a lot of folks have some questions about Frequency Monday. Oh, hey, look at that. We got a YouTube all-star in the house. Mr. Danny Ritchie is in the chat. So if you guys have any questions for Danny about anything, Danny and I have been hinting about, kind of teasing about some speakers that are going to be coming out to market within the next 4 to 48 weeks, somewhere around there. And I've done some sound clips with the very first stand mount that we have. We haven't named it yet. Well, we have named it. We've named it a couple of different things, but we can't figure out what we want to do for the final name of it. But my goodness me, what a great speaker. So I'm excited to chat about those in more detail as soon as possible. In fact, if you guys want, and if there's some interest, Danny and I could do like a live stream together and we could chat about those. That'd be kind of fun. We'll see what you guys think about that. Um, all the best from Germany. My goodness sakes. It is such a privilege to do what I do and to have so many folks that give a rip about what I have to say in these videos all the way from Germany. Like it is a privilege and I'm humbled by it, to be honest with you. Absolutely humbled. Um yeah, Nick, I am pretty busy. The family obviously takes up a lot of time. The kiddos are growing up and I feel like I'm more of an Uber driver than anything lately. We're always, taking kids to different programs and things that that mom is signing them up for. And I think that's awesome. That's great. In fact, yesterday we were watching a fall festival with Natalie doing hip hop dancing. And so mom's already trying to influence the kids into hip hop. And I don't know how I feel about that. She's going to get a talking to later about that. But anyways, it was great and we had a blast. And Elliot is in tumbling. So he's he's just doing these like kind of doing cartwheels and things like that. He did a pretty good job. I'd give him like a C minus. Natalie probably a B plus. She did a little bit better. Um, when are we going to get more music from the sound shed? Good question. That's a good question. That whole project has kind of been set to the side here. But hopefully we can revive that and get some more music going. That'd be a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. But that's a good question, John, for sure. Man. Ron, greetings from Belgium. Love your channel. Been a fan for ages. Massive thanks for what you do. Harry, thank you so much. That is so kind. Um, lately, something that I've been messing around with, and both Danny and Hobbs have been over, and we did some, listening, is these cute little things. You guys recognize these. Let's see if my Canon cooperates. Nope. Oh, hey, look at that. Little Sparkos op amps. We've got these Burson op amps. This is their Vision. Yeah, I think it's the Vision, or Vivid. Burson Vivid. Latest generation of the Vivid. And then we've got one of the classics. This is the previous generation. And we've been swapping them out in my dot audio DAC and just listening. And man, it is so fascinating to me. I've been, over to Danny's more times than I can count, even over the years. I've known Danny now for a decade. And his system, I thought, was kind of at a point where it just couldn't get any better. And dude, I'm telling you, when we dropped this Sparkos into his system, I mean, it was like, you got to be kidding me. There's like a whole other layer to this. Like, you got to be kidding me. And I think that, giving props where I should, a lot of these other channels have been talking about op amps for a while. We got Randy, of course, like leading that charge, for the most part, talking about op amps, and many of the other channels that have kind of followed in his footsteps of swapping out op amps for stuff like, Sparkos, and making changes to, their systems. And I kind of feel like a bit of a dinosaur. Like, why haven't I entertained this yet, or thought about this, or taken it seriously? And now I am like, okay, well, now you have my full undivided attention, that these things, every single one of these is, relatively inexpensive. Sparkos is 79 bucks or 69 bucks or something like that. And we have one that has been unbelievable. It's Staccato. And I think Danny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're from Poland. I think they're made in Poland. Staccato, and it's a Class A JFET discrete op amp. And so, man, we threw that in, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's like yet another layer, and it's absolutely stunning. So, not to get on a whole tangent about this or get off road too much. I really want to hear from you guys, but I've been having a blast just playing with op amps and kind of just hearing stuff all over again. At least in my system with these prototype speakers that we've been working on. They're not even the most revealing speakers that money can buy. I mean, Danny has other speakers that he makes, and even my old Audicas are more revealing. They're gonna like fling the windows open, especially when it comes to like detail retrieval and clarity. But these with these op amps, we were hearing stuff in the music that Danny and I literally have never heard before. So it goes back to the beginning. Like, we all kind of, start out that way, to where we're like, holy crap, I've heard this song a million times and I've never heard this one particular thing. And I gotta say, that's how a lot of these op amps feel. It's like, whoa, man, we've had some blankets over the system, and we didn't even realize that. When you pull off those blankets, it's like, man, it's so much fun. So anyways, yeah, super awesome. We've been having a blast with that. And I plan on, in the next couple of weeks, getting back to these little Chinese amps, the amps that everybody knows about, and we have what is it, Fozzy Audio and IEMA and all of these companies that are making these, really affordable amplifiers. And almost all of them have that one thing in common, is that you can swap out the op amps. So I'm really curious and intrigued to try that and give that a serious go and find out what happens. So that's going to be a lot of fun, man. Let me take a look here. I got a couple questions coming in here. Ron, did you ever get into metal music at all? I would be a poser and a liar if I said that I did get into metal music, but I respect metal music. So there's nothing about it that I'm like, yeah, it's just not for me. I don't necessarily intentionally listen to metal music, but anytime that I have heard it, I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. And I would say that, well, what are we talking about, John? Like, are we talking about metal as in like Black Sabbath? Or would we consider that rock and roll or hard rock? Where does that, sit in the spectrum of metal? Is Metallica metal? Well, which era of Metallica is metal? And so that's a good question, but I certainly respect metal and I have no problems with it. And I'm always impressed, from like a musician standpoint. I'm not a musician, but I tinker around and I noodle with guitars and stuff. But recording and this and that, I'm always blown away by how unbelievably tight these metal bands are and how like in tune with each other they are. It's like, man, it's mind numbing. Like when and a lot of that, the backbone is the drummer that kind of holds everybody together. But it's really impressive. And so it's just like, wow, all these dudes and dudettes, playing, and it's just like they're perfectly in sync. It's really fascinating and very cool. Um, let's see here. Op amps are used in guitar pedals too. Hey, Nick, that's interesting. That's interesting. I do have. I've got a King of Tone, an Analog Man King of Tone. I waited in line for many, many years to get that, and I think it has op amps in it, and so, hmm, I may have to take a look at that. That'll be interesting. Let's see here. Tommy has a question about a DAC. Let me see what he's asking. He's saying, "Hey Ron, what DAC would you recommend in the 6 to 8K price range that doesn't overemphasize high frequencies?" I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard much that high in price. The Maydac, which I've now owned for a few years, I bought that with my own money. It wasn't given to me because of a nice review. I paid for that DAC. That is still here, and that for me has been the benchmark. By you know, I've judged every other DAC based on how that particular DAC sounds, and I would say that at least with what I have heard, it is still my favorite. The Denafrips Terminator, which I reviewed before the Maydac, also sounded very, very good. A little bit smoother and softer than the May. The May seems to just unravel every single detail. Like if we're talking about just sheer resolution, I think that if you're into like, the R2R sound, and it does have a sound to it, I think the Maydac is tough to beat. But there's a gazillion of them out there above that price point that I would love to hear. I would love to experience. Oh, the name escapes me. What is the tube company? I think it's Germany. I think it might be Germany. Lampezator, is that? Yeah, and it's like more tubey sound, a lot of tube stuff. I would like to experience more of that stuff. I did a review of one of their DACs a while back, but I've tried knocking on the door being like, "Hey, can we continue this relationship and get in more DACs?" And for some reason that just hasn't happened, which is a bummer because I would like to try a lot of the Lampezator stuff and see what it's all about. Pantera and Slayer. Yeah, so like Nick, I mean, I have no issues with any of that. I'm sure that if you came over and you're like, dude, check out this album, I would probably sit there and listen to the whole album. And I wouldn't, feel the need to change it to anything else. I would probably sit there and be like, okay, I get it. But if we're talking about like, just music that I enjoy and gravitate to, there is of course my work music, which is my audiophile playlist that I have on Qobuz, which I'll need to share with you guys. And a lot of those tracks I do enjoy, but those are more tracks of like, okay, I know this track so well and I know what it's supposed to be doing. So, you know, it's a tool. Now, music that I just simply enjoy, well, I mean, the music that had the most impact on me was growing up through the 90s. So it was really the grunge era, the Seattle sound and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins and all that kind of stuff. That had a massive, I mean, I was clay. I was just a dumb kid and I thought that I knew everything. And, going through all of those teenage blues of not knowing anything. And I thought that I knew everything. And that music was important to me and it still is. So that's the type of music that if I'm just going to listen and enjoy stuff, it's usually within that realm of, style for the most part. Let's see here. Have I experimented with audiophile fuses? I have had good results with AMR and synergistic research fuses. No, I haven't. Um, that is interesting. I don't. I mean, I know next to nothing about the function of a fuse, other than I think that it's just a. See, this is where I don't know what I'm talking about. I have always thought that it's just a safety device, that it's not in the signal at all. It's like something blows up, you have a problem, and then the fuse blows, right? And then it's like, okay, you got to replace your fuse. So I haven't thought about it. I haven't worried about it. Now that you say that, I am gonna start losing sleep. So I appreciate that. But like, oh crap, maybe I need to start messing around with fuses. Because this is what it's like to be a true audiophile, I think. It's like, okay, well, you only know what you know, but people start mentioning these things and you at least have to entertain it. Like, okay, well, like, let's give it a try and see what happens. I think that the Madak specifically has a fancy pants fuse in it. It's like a red fuse, or there's a lot of jargon on Holo Audio's website about the fuse. And to be short with that question, no, I haven't. But who knows? Maybe fuses make a difference, and who am I to say that they don't? So, John Adams, laugh out loud. Metallica last best to me was And Justice for All. Hey man, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's cool. I love the Black album. Like that one is one that I appreciated. And John, you're about to probably unsubscribe and never talk to me again. So it's been great. But I actually loved when Load came out. I was like, hey, I feel like this band is actually moving in a new direction and like growing. I'm gonna stop talking because I like I liked Load. I mean, I thought that it was just cool. I was like, yeah, this is neat. I dig this. So I'm gonna stop talking about Metallica. Oh my goodness. Um, did you ever hear about Schneizinger wall outlet? What do you think about them? No, I haven't. I don't know anything about that. Whenever you can you please do a review of the new topping D93 discrete? I'd be happy to. Getting a lot of this like Chinese stuff is pretty easy, so I haven't pushed to get a lot of that stuff in, but most of those companies are willing to just send you whatever you want. So, I would be happy to do that and check that out. I'll remember that. I'll jot that down and see if I can make that happen. My own devices. Hey, we've got audiophile, or I mean, YouTube celebrities in the house. Spring 3 KTE is great as well. I agree. I checked out the Spring 3 and I thought it was fantastic. Really, really nice. Hi, Ron, do you prefer a closed speaker or bass reflex? By closed, I think you mean sealed. I think we're saying the same thing there, Phil. Generally, between those two designs, I guess it depends. It could depend on a lot of different factors. I like both. I think that in hi-fi we have a tendency of thinking that it's got to be all or none. Like you either like this or like that, and that's that. Digital and analog, or vinyl versus CDs. And I don't really feel that way. Tubes versus solid state. You see what I mean? Like I'm painting this picture, and you know, I I actually think that it just depends. It depends on the speaker, um, what the strengths of that particular speaker is. Now, with that all being said, I will say that when it comes to bass and subwoofers, specifically subwoofers, generally speaking, I almost always prefer a sealed sub to a ported subwoofer. Um, so if that's helpful, great. I generally like the sound more from a sealed sub than I do a like a bass reflex design and a subwoofer. And then of course, open baffle I prefer more than both. And I've been experimenting with some stuff that I'm going to be making a video here real soon. In fact, I remember the day that I had Danny come over and experience this, and I think he was like, "Dang, man, you did something kind of cool here." So I have two of the double troubles, the open baffle subs in the front of the room, and then just to the left and right of me. If I look to my left and I look to my right, I have two sealed subs. So I have four subs in the sound shed right now, and that is a lot of fun, man. I mean, that works. And you might think, Ron, that sounds crazy. You would think that those subs are going to be a distraction, like you're going to hear too much from the left and right. And I suppose that if you didn't blend things as well as I have, that would be the case. That could happen, but gosh, I got to say I don't hear that in this room like much at all. And it does give you some freedom and some flexibility, especially with these subs that I got, because these are in for review. They're Arendelle subs and they're massive, like what is it, two 13s or 12s or something, two 13s. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I'll be doing a video that talks about this in detail. But what's great about these is a lot of the newer subs, it's all controlled by my app, and so there's no controls on the back of the sub. It's just blank, what I mean, power button, very simple. And so while I'm in the seat, I can change and alter everything about the sub. Anything and everything that you could like, it's so rad because it's like I already have my front subs going, I already have them dialed in. Then it's just a matter of just slowly bringing up these side subs, playing with even their crossover settings, like where they roll off, and even changing the order of it. You can do a second order, a third order, a fourth order, first order, for the slopes of the sub. And you can obviously change the frequency, you can change the phase, you can change all of these different parameters. And the beauty is you're doing it in real time. So you're listening and you're making these adjustments and you're hearing the effects of it. And what I've discovered in a setup like this, that if I'm listening to something that is truly like audiophile, and what I mean by that is I know exactly how this is supposed to sound, and that's that Dominique Fils-Aimé, Peter F. Egles, things like that I mention on the channel all the time. If I'm listening to Birds as an example from Dominique, everybody knows that song. It's played at the shows all the time. I know how that sounds and I know how it's supposed to sound. And if I bump up the subs on the side too much, there's additional room gain. It's like I hear that, it's like, that's cool, but it doesn't really work. However, if you play classic rock and you're rocking out to AC/DC or The Who or the Rolling Stones or you name it, anybody, Dire Straits, you crank up those subs and it's nothing but fun. You kind of forget about critical, you've got like the kick drum going, and it's like, yeah, heck yeah. And so that has been a blast. Boy, I went way off road there. I was just simply answering a question earlier, folks, about what I prefer between a sealed speaker and a ported speaker. And I started talking about subs and I went off on that long tangent. But, anyways, Adam Frost says a fuse is in the direct path of the power supply, but not in the signal path. Okay. So there we go. John Adams, ... He's like, Ron, why do you do this to me? Load, why do you do this to me? Oh my goodness. Gio says, hey, Ron, any experience with PS Audio power regenerators? I find them intriguing, but I've seen next to no reviews on them. No, here in the sound shed, I haven't really done a whole lot with power conditioning or anything like that. The power in the shed is not piggybacking off of the house. I have its own meter. And so I think there's a lot of advantages to that. So appliances, anything that is running in the home has no impact on me whatsoever, which is a massive benefit. And I haven't felt the need to mess around with power conditioning, but I'm also intrigued by it as well. So that certainly might be something that I would, look into. Just to my left over here, you can't see it. I have one of those. They're pretty popular. The Puritan power conditioners. It was loaned by the guys over at Spatial Audio, and they just wanted me to check it out. And I'll be honest, I tried it and I didn't notice any difference at all. It didn't make any difference, both good and or bad. And in the past, in some rooms, I've bought like cheap power conditioners, and I felt that they actually had a negative impact on the gear when it comes to like shear dynamics and things like that. I felt like it just wasn't. I felt like it was taking something away rather than giving me something. Um, and with this Puritan, it might be fine and it might be great in some situations in some rooms, but just being honest, at least here in the sound shed, in the power that I have here in Texas, I didn't think that it did anything. And so there wasn't this, oh my gosh, the blacks are blacker and the dynamics are increased or everything is cleaner. No, I didn't experience that. And I might try it again just to make sure, like, was I off when I was, experimenting with it and give it another, go and find out. But at least for me, it just wasn't that big of a deal. But I am intrigued by the idea of power conditioners as well, for sure. Uh, Colin or Colin, I think it's Colin. Um, do you use a streamer and Ethernet to your Holo, or do you use USB from your source? USB supposed to be very good into the May. Yeah, I assume it's Colin. Um, I use USB, and so I have the NUOS Zenith, and I'm just using the USB directly into the May DAC, and that's the way that I've always done it. With the exception of the Jay's Audio CDT Mark III CD transport, and that's in for review. That review will be out in November. So we're in November, sometime this month. I'm thinking probably next weekend I should be able to drop that video. Um, and I'm going to set that up and listen to it quite a bit this week. This week, I'm going to drop a review. Denifrip sent me out the Pontus 15th, and that has been an impressive sounding DAC. Full disclaimer, they actually said that I get to keep the DAC in their initial email, so that doesn't always happen. I will obviously be disclaiming that in the review, and I need to, like anybody needs to do that just to stay within FTC guidelines. But even still, there's a freebie. So is that having an impact on me? I don't think so. I think it's a great sounding DAC. Is it going to replace the May anytime soon? No, it's not. But it sounds a lot like the May. That I feel like there's a lot of characteristics there that are the same, and it's less than half the price. It's two grand, for this Pontus 15. So that'll be an easy celebration. It's a really nice sounding DAC, and I've appreciated it, quite a bit. So yeah. Hello from Killen, Texas. Hello to you. I bought some of Danny's top of the line power cords and speaker cables and was wondering about your thoughts on them. I almost exclusively use all of Danny's cables at this point. There's times where I'll pull out, some cables and try some different stuff, but I love all of his cables, and I've never, as like, I don't really do dedicated reviews of cables. I used to, a long time ago. Um, do I think that cables matter and they make a difference? I think everything to a certain extent matters. But I don't know if I would ever spend a whole lot of time talking about that stuff and it's not because I don't think that it makes a difference. It's because I feel like I have higher priorities of stuff that I just need to get done rather than, taking off time and let's talk about some cables. But this is an endorsement of his stuff. I have his power cords. I have his RCA interconnects, which I think he's ramping up to offer those as fully finished, not even like a kit, but like you can buy cables directly from Danny. I think he's I think still in the chat, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's getting ready to do that, which is exciting. And his speaker cables I use pretty much exclusively, especially if I'm listening to like these new prototypes. or anything that can accept, tube connectors, then for sure I'm using those cables and I love them. They're great. So yeah, they're the real deal. Do you high pass with subs? Neil, that's a good question. I sometimes. So again, this is going to be dependent on the speaker or the system that I'm listening to. Generally speaking, Neil, I don't. So generally speaking, the way that I tackle subs is, even though there are advantages of pulling weight off of, the mains, and Danny does that quite a bit, and I think that is a good idea. Generally, my plan of attack when it comes to subs is I allow the mains to play as low as they can, and then I just bring in subs at the very bottom. And that's always been my plan of attack. There's pros and cons to doing it, but that's generally speaking how I set up my subs, Neil. Um, but there's no right or wrong, and it could be dependent on the speaker and what you're trying to achieve, for sure. Let's see here. Give me a second here. My chat just kind of freaked out. Um, I'm ready. I'm okay. This is from Luke Fisher. He says, I'm getting ready to build a fully active, full range, four-way open baffle system. Any advice? Gosh, you're kind of in uncharted territory for me. I'm not. I have nothing against active loudspeaker systems. In fact, in that desk over there, I have the Bucar Active, the anniversary. I forget which model they are. The one with the Purify woofer, and they're fully active. And I'm excited to give those a go and find out, like what happens and how those things sound. um, and there's a lot of cool systems out there, like the Key Audio system is kind of intriguing, like with all the, room correction and all that kind of stuff. And I'm always interested to play around with that stuff. And perhaps it's my own bias, because one of the reasons that I'm interested in it is I want to find out how close is it to just a passive, system, which I generally prefer. Is like, is that gap starting to narrow? Is it getting closer? And there's going to be some folks out there, and I have no problem with this, that will say, Ron, you're crazy. Active is way better than passive, and it can do so much more. And the sky is the limits. And they certainly might be right. And I'm the kind of open-minded individual that I'm curious to find out whether or not that is true. So far in my adventures of hearing any active system, which has been like at shows, the room might not be up to par, I've never been blown away. I've never been like stunned or like, wow, this is unbelievable. I've always felt like, yeah, it sounds pretty good. Granted, the next room over in the show might have a passive system. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't sound very good. Um, so that there are advantages to active systems, and I would encourage you, Luke, to do it, man. I mean, you have my backing, but as far as advice, you're kind of, it's out of my element. And I'm not a speaker designer. Even if you said I'm getting ready to do like a passive system, I'd be like, well, call Danny or call, somebody that actually knows what the heck they're doing, and talk to them about it. Um, let's take a look here. Harry VA says, Harry is saying, on the topic of subwoofers, my take is that no sub should have a crossover higher than about 60 hertz. What's your take on it, Ron? Harry, so that that has been kind of the reason for my attack. The way that I set up subs, which I just mentioned, I usually let the mains play, excuse me, as low as possible, and then I meet them with the subs. And while that could be dependent on the speaker, and there are some speakers that you just simply need to go higher than that to reach the speaker, to have that perfect, integration. The trouble that I've personally had is, as you get up into those higher frequencies, certainly above 60, 80, anything in there, is the sub becomes pretty directional to me. And what I mean by that is, because I'm so obsessed with soundstage, I never want to hear speakers in the room. I just want to hear whatever that stage is, whether it's fake, whether it's real. I want to hear everything instruments. I don't want to hear any speakers. And I've personally felt like as you creep up in frequency with subs, it gets more and more difficult to keep them hidden in the music, and I find that they become a bit more of a distraction than just that low bottom octave. Where is that bass coming from? I don't know. That's what I'm going for. So I would say, while 60 hertz is not a magic number for me, Harry, I would say that I would agree with this comment or this notion that generally speaking, I try to keep the subs as low as possible. I try to avoid going high if I don't need to. And that's just the way that I set up subs. Harry, I think you just are asking again. I think I just talked about it quite in nauseum, actually. That what is my take on integration relating to subwoofer frequency? I think I just kind of established that. Let's take a look here. John Adams is saying when you started your room treatment, the diffusers, bass traps, all impactful. How was the difference hearing the clouds? Was it mind bending? Yes, it was. That was that was massive, to be honest with you. And having a ceiling with no treatment at all, and then I remember I only put up just 1 or 2 panels. I mean, honestly, it was just like nothing. I just got started and I was very analytical about lining everything up to be perfect, and so it took forever to get them in position and perfect. But even as I put up 1 or 2, I was shocked at how, "Holy crap, this room feels and sounds different." I could tell immediately what I didn't recognize as a problem was now being solved, if that makes any sense. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much that ceiling was having an impact on everything in this room until now." And that was only after 1 or 2 clouds. And when I got them all up, dude, it's a massive transformation when you put up the clouds. And I think that people just don't think to look up or down. I mean, there's only so much we can do on the ground. It's like get some rugs or whatnot or don't. But looking up, it's like, man, you have a hard surface and a hard surface, and they're generally the biggest surfaces in the entire room. Like you think about that. It's the biggest surface. And so treating the ceiling is massive. It's super important. And recently I've actually thought about adding more and spending more time on stuff on the roof. So I've been thinking about actually doing exactly that. It makes a huge difference for sure. Let's take a look here. Somebody jumping in. Todd T is saying if the Puritan didn't change anything, your power must be pretty clean here, clean there. Yeah, it might be, and that might be it. And so, some of you folks that are like in New York or whatever the case. Hey, thank you for the super chat. Um, if you're in New York or you just have dirty power or whatever, you're in a condo, you're in a apartment complex, whatever, it might make a profound difference. But at least for me, with dedicated or isolated power, I I, I haven't experienced any kind of a transformation with that Puritan. It just didn't. So Ed Zach, Eddie Z is asking, late to the discussion, is that Caladan review coming soon? Man, the whole Kaladin thing, it's been frustrating for me because there at this point, I'm in no control of anything that happens. I have no control over anything. I had high hopes that that review would have been done a while back. But that didn't happen, and that was truly beyond my control. And a lot of that has to do with setback after setback after setback that Clayton has dealt with when it's manufacturing, baffles, things not working out right, you name it. And I'm not here to defend Clayton. I'm really not, but I hope that I can move forward with that as soon as possible. The last time that I talked to Clayton, there was still refinements being made and production that was finally starting to. It sounds like it's starting to happen, like truly actually happen. And I hope that is the case. And because there's nothing that would bring me more joy than to finally get back to talking about that and letting that project move forward. But at this point, I just can't. My hands are kind of tied in this, that I really can't move forward. There's no point for me to drop a review for a speaker that has had so many setbacks and issues and production problems. And I can only genuinely hope that those problems are behind us now. And sooner or later, I will get the green light of, here we go, Ron. Let's light that fire and we can get the show on the road. So thank you for asking. I appreciate that. And I do appreciate so many folks being so patient, specifically with me, because I have felt like it's, even though it's not, I have felt some ownership, or like, man, I obviously was enthusiastic and I am enthusiastic about that speaker. And so many people place so many orders based on me being enthusiastic about it. And I feel like I'm letting them down when it's not my fault. It's like I don't make the speakers. I've only heard this one, and it sounds incredible. It's amazing. And so I can only hope that that is going to be something that changes here in the near future, and we can, like I said, get the show on the road. Uh, did you listen to the new Kef Q11 Meta? No, I have not. I haven't heard that speaker. Um, Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Whoever threw that in there, I just got a notification. Let's take a look here. I have a Black Ice F11 amp with stock Electro Harmonix EL84 tubes. How much difference will tubes make to the amp sound signature? Any recommendations on EL84 tubes? James, yeah, tube rolling can and often will make a difference. How much of a difference there could be a lot of factors that are going to have an influence or impact on that. And I've even done some tube rolling videos where I actually did some sound clips, you know, so you guys could hear the differences. And that was with the new PS Vane Horizon series, which I've liked quite a bit. And I don't know if they do an EL84, James, but you should look. See if PS Vane Horizon, just Google PS Vane Horizon. And by all, there's no kickback for me. There's no accommodations or anything like that. Whatever you decide to do is fine. But I've liked those tubes. And they did give me those tubes for free when I did that video back then. So I want to disclose that. But regardless, I like those tubes and I think they sounded really nice. And if they do have an EL84, I would say I would snag those up and try those out because I've had really good luck with those. I think they sound really good. All right, let's take a look here. What is your opinion of Macintosh? Never seen you review their equipment. Love your knowledge and channel. Eric, I did a review of Macintosh way back in the day. It's been many, many years. You could search for it on my channel. It was a preamp of theirs, and I liked it quite a bit. I was, it's been a long time. And so by all means, I may feel different about Macintosh now than what I did then. I'm a bit more of a purist now. And what I mean by that sounded snobby, but let me explain that. I'm finding that I'm less interested in bells and whistles, functionality, neat little tricks and things that preamps can do. And I'm more interested in, can I get closer and closer to the truth in the music? And so not to say that Macintosh are the most advanced preamps on the planet. They're not by even a long stretch, but they what it might be is if I was to do a review of one of their preamps, I might be like, yeah, it has this and it has this and it has this and it has that and it has this and it has high pass and low pass and it has a built-in phono and it has a built-in, whatever they got going on. And a lot of that stuff I might not even actually care about. And if I just judge it based on how it sounds, it may not be quite as enthusiastic as I was as a younger reviewer saying, oh, it can do this and it can do that and it can do this and it can do that. And it's got an equalizer or, whatever it has going on. And so what do I think about them as a brand? They're a legacy brand, and so, it's one of those brands that should be at least looked at with a bit of respect because they've been around and they've been doing this for a long time, but I'm not the authority to say whether or not the modern Macintosh, what Macintosh is the same as what it was. And what I mean by that is I talked to a lot of old school audiophiles that would passionately say Macintosh now is not what it was. So you can take that and chew on that and think that over. And I think that what they're inferring or what they're saying is that it's not as good as it used to be. But I don't know. I don't know. So that's just what I've heard. I've got my ear to the ground in the audiophile world. I'm always talking to audiophiles, and that's kind of the general consensus that I get. And it's not from just one guy or gal. It's like, no, this is like something I've heard quite a bit. Is it's not the same as what it used to be. So we have Jerome. I think your name is Jerome. I'm not sure. Hello from the Netherlands. That is crazy. Hello from America. By the way, Veterans Day. Veterans, thank you. Here in America, we're celebrating Veterans Day, and if there's any veterans out there, God bless you and thank you for your sacrifice and for serving our country. I am one of those folks that has no problem saying that at all. So thank you. I respect it and I appreciate it. Anyways, back to the question. Hello from the Netherlands. Have you ever tested electrostatic speakers? And if so, what are your thoughts on them? Yeah. Well, actually, that's a good question. Magnaplanars, like, Magnapans I have, electrostats. That would be, help me out, guys. Would that be like Martin Logan or electrostats? I've never reviewed anything from Martin Logan in terms of their electrostats, and that would be fun to do. So I don't have a whole lot of thoughts about them. So that'd be fun to check them out. Subcoded. Wow, my favorite reviewer is online. Greetings from Greece. Dude, thank you so much for jumping in here. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I'm honored. Neil K is asking, any chance you'll review some panel speakers? Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going away. you know, I've been doing this, for more than 10 years now, believe it or not. And this isn't like, oh, I got the bug. No, like I'm in it. And so I'll be reviewing for as long as I can, and there's a breath in me. I'm still just as passionate about all this stuff as I ever have been, if not more passionate about it. And yeah, for sure. So, any of you manufacturers out there that catch wind, send me your panel speakers, whatever you got. I would love to check out anything and everything under the sun. And if you guys have any recommendations on something that you want me to reach out and ask about, just email me, Ron at New Record Day. Just say, these are the panel speakers. These are the ones that I want you to review. And I'll reach out to the manufacturer and I'll try to make it happen. David Rothman. Hi, Ron. David, you are David Rothman here. You are always a gentleman, wishing you and the family the best. David, right back at you, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see here. We've got, what are your comments about the GR Research NX Bravo? In your opinion, how different is it from the XLS Encore? I have heard the Bravo, and it's a fantastic sounding speaker. It's like the mini version. It's like the mini version of the monitor, the XLS monitor that they have. The name of it is, I'm drawing a blank. I think it might be called the monitor, but yeah, I mean, it's using the same tweeter. It's not open baffle like how do I not know the name of the speaker? NX monitor? You guys know which one I'm talking about. The one that has the ramp on top and it has, the open baffle hybrid design. So the NX Bravo is a smaller footprint, smaller speaker, and it's not open baffle. But that characteristic that you get with that particular tweeter, same tweeter that I know quite well that was in my Audicas, is fast and detailed and airy. The top end of cymbal hits and anything is about as expressive and realistic and true to the recording as I think that it gets. I mean, it will peel back every layer for you and just fling open the doors and it's like, there you go. That's what you want. Transparency. You want to hear what transparency sounds like. There you go. So fantastic, fantastic sounding little speaker, if that's what you're into. And, I was telling Danny, and I think I would stand by this, that while somebody that was serious about mixing and mastering, like we're talking studio type situation, they have a fully decked out room. I think they would get the, the monitor. Um, but I think that anybody that is just more into like desktop listening, right? So they have a desk like this and they just want to set up a couple of speakers. I think that NX Bravo is going to kick ass. Pardon me in my French. I think it's going to kick ass in that type of a system. I could imagine, because they're small, they're not big speakers, and so they're not going to take up a lot of real estate on the desk. And I think that a system like that would be killer. And the bass is substantial in the sound shed, no problem in the mid 40s. So, and that's like 8 to 9, 10 feet into the room. Mid 40s, not an issue. So decent bass as well. If you're at desk, you could always just throw a sub underneath if you want. But excuse me, but I don't even think that that's necessary. So yeah, NX Bravo is rad. The Encore is pound for pound still my favorite GR Research speaker. My favorite. And it's not that it's the best sounding GR Research speaker. The new prototypes that Danny and I are working on are quickly becoming what I would say is the best sounding that he's done. Like, this is a new era. We're turning a page and we're moving into a new direction. And we'll get more into this as we talk more about those speakers. I'm looking at them right now. They don't do everything that the NX Bravo does, and they don't do anything that everything that the NX Streams do or the NX Exoticas do. But the one thing that they do, I've never heard any speaker do. So, that's a big deal. Like, no other speaker can do what these do. And so, for that, it's incredible. Getting back to the Encore, they're my favorite because of the value proposition, that even if you bought the standard crossover and you're like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of Ron talking about parts matter, and I'm sick and tired of Danny, floating these ridiculous sonic caps, and it's just a bunch of silliness. You know what I say? Okay, no problem. Go with even just the standard XLS Encore kit, and you're not going to invest a ton of money if you decide to do that. And I'm going to tell you, man, that speaker would easily compete with anything on the market up to $1,500, $2,000. It would. It would compete with it. It might not beat it, and it might not beat it in every single category, but mark my words, and I ain't fibbing, I ain't a fibber, it would compete with it. With the standard crossover. Of course, I have to mention, I think that parts matter. I think that everything to an extent matters. And as soon as you throw in, these highfalutin parts, you get some MyFlex bypass in there, or, sonic bypass caps, or whatever the case may be. Well, now you have a speaker that doesn't just compete, but it beats out. It puts a hurt on a lot of those speakers, especially, and hear me, this is important, especially when it comes to what I'm after, which is that illusion of soundstage and things in their proper place and placement in their proper place. Doesn't dig as deep as like a Bucar S400 Mark II. It doesn't hit as hard as, a Denton, whatever speaker, it might not do that, might not have all the dynamic capabilities or this and that as, a certain floor stander at that price point, whatever. But in the realm of soundstage, they better have their big boy boots on, because those Encores are about to lay the smackdown on them. And for that, they've always been my favorite speaker because of what they represent. You don't need to spend a ton of money to get into it. And sorry, I'm on a soapbox now. Look what you did. When you build something like that, and you do it yourself and you are scared to do it like I was when I built my first kit, and then you actually do it and you fire it up for the first time, there's something special about that. You're like, "Wow. Wow, I learned something." And then you're ready to do it again and take on a new challenge and do maybe a more complex crossover. Or at that point, because you've learned it, like you've actually learned it and you've built it, the next time if you decide to watch any of Danny's videos, do your research, and you're following along, you find yourself going, "Oh, light bulb moments. I understand. I've built this. I know exactly what he's talking about, this, phase integration and the vertical integration and the horizontal integration and things falling away because I built that speaker. I looked at the schematic. I've put these parts together. I know exactly what he's saying." You grow and you learn something. And so it's a win-win. Encores are fantastic because of what they represent. They're the most truest form of high performance value on the market that I know of. They beat out everything that I've ever laid my hands on or heard when it comes to just sheer performance for the money, in my opinion. So, hi from Japan X Scotland, Cyan 2 or Pontus 15th. Ah, don't ask me that. This is gonna make my job a little bit more difficult. I so as I mentioned earlier, Denafrips gave me this Pontus 15th, so you have to take that in, I have to disclose that. They said that up front in the email, which was shocking. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. They're giving me this product and it's $2,000. Like that's a pretty nice gift." With that being said, you guys know me. That doesn't that that means something and it's a generous offering, but that's not going to change what I say to you guys about it. But I will tell you, I think I like the Pontus 15 a little bit more than the Cyan 2. Now, Cyan 2 is cheaper, right? You have to take that into consideration. And I'm going to talk about this in the review in great detail, or as much detail as I can, that the Cyan 2, and you guys heard this in the sound clips, it's missing a little bit of that body. And the May has it, because I did a comparison in the sound clips of, the May DAC and the Cyan 2. And the Cyan 2 was great on top, and it sounded like beautiful and detailed and airy and all that. But the May just brought this liquid, beautiful, flowing mid-range, and it's like, man, it's got some body to it. Excuse me. And here's the thing. The Pontus 15 has that. And so it's like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I think we have a DAC that might be better than the Cyan 2, especially when it comes to that one thing that I felt like the Cyan 2 might have sacrificed a little bit. It was more detail centric, more top end. It had that, and it's beautiful and it's great. So it could be system dependent what you're putting together and what your priorities are. But with that Pontus, my goodness, it has some body, and you guys will hear that in the clips because I put the Pontus up against the Maydac, and I'm doing the sound clips different this time. I'm going right out of the DAC, so we're not going from the DAC into my system into speakers doing the sound clips. No, I recorded line level into my recorder from the DAC. So this is about as deadly of a comparison as it's going to get. You're hearing DAC versus DAC at this point. The only thing that was tricky was there is an output voltage difference between the DACs. So one is louder than the other. And so I had no choice but to do a little bit of adjustment there. And that's the only thing I did is I just changed levels to where worked on trim until I had it the same. And when I did, I will tell you guys, this is one of the first sound clips where I'm like, either I'm getting older. October was my birthday. I'm getting older, or I can't tell much of a difference here. So the Pontus 15 it's no joke. It's a very nice sounding DAC. So I'm excited to chat about that. And that review will be out at the end of this week. I'm finalizing my notes, and I'll do the video this week, and I'll get it out to you guys. All right. I've been on for about an hour. Usually this is when I finish things up. I have a ton of stuff that is coming my way. So bear with me. I need to just take a sip of this coffee, and I'm getting a little bit dry mouth here. And I'll hang out with you guys for like another 20, 30 minutes. Try to hang in there, and we'll keep going with your questions. Oh yeah, that's better. All right, let me back up here, and let's see here. MK says, at the end, it's the best advice. Don't listen to other people in terms of gear. Make your own way and trust your ears. Man, I love this comment. I personally don't care if a speaker designer says his passive gear is better. I completely agree with that notion that you should trust your ears. And, you know, my I want to paint the best case possible. Anytime I do a review, I feel like I'm a private investigator and I'm visiting a crime scene, right? And it's like, okay, well, we have this crime scene here, and I'm trying my best to look at all of the evidence as to why this is the way that it is. And then I just give it to you. And it's my hope in that, and that's one reason why I try so hard to cover as much ground as I can, and I'm giving all everything that I can, subjective listening, objective analysis, through measurements, sound clips so you can hear for yourself. There's obviously going to be challenges if you just take one of those elements and pull it away and say it's only objective or it's only subjective or it's only sound clips, but I try to give you all of this to help make that decision. And at the same time, I still agree with comments like this that at the end of the day, trust your ears. Don't trust everything that I've had to say about it. Listen for yourself, pay attention. And there certainly might be something that I review that I'm like, this is not for me. It's not my cup of tea. It's not the sound that I'm after. And you're going, it's the sound that I'm after. And MK is spot on. Trust your ears and get what you like. And let's be at peace with that. I might make fun of you and you might make fun of me, but I'm like, you bought those? But hey, that's cool. It's your cup of tea and that's what you're after. And there's nothing wrong with that. John Adams says, damn it, wife is going to kill me. Yeah, she probably will. Rest in peace, John Adams. All right, let's take a look here. Anyone heard Vista Audio products, Zest or Spark? Steve tested them some weeks ago and they seem interesting. I haven't. I've reached out to them a number of times through the years because I want to check out the Spark and it just never happened. And I saw that they released that Zest. So maybe I'll just reach out to them and be like, quit dinking around and send me something. So I'll see if I can make that happen. Dave Apex is asking Vanatu Encore Plus with RSL Speedwoofer 10 review request. System comes in under $1,300. Where does it stack up against high-end affordable world? I'll take note of that right now, Dave, and save that. And I'll investigate. Thank you. I appreciate that. Bill, thank you for your review of the Yamaha AS2200. I enjoy every day with the JBL 100 Classic and Ever Solo DMP A6. Thanks to you. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad that you like it. What are your comments about the GR Research NX Bravo? In your opinion, how different is it from the XLS Encore? This is a super chat that came in, but I already answered this question in great detail. For me, the NX Bravo is going to be a bit faster. It is going to be more about transparency, especially on top, cymbal hits, refinement of decay dripping off the tips of cymbal hits. If you're a big fan of focusing your attention on all of those tiny little fireflies in the soundstage, all of those micro details, I would say the NX Bravo is going to be the way to go versus the XLS Encore. The XLS Encore is going to be just a little bit smoother on top. It's going to have just a little bit more forgiveness on top. All right, let's take a look here. Hey, Ron, still rocking those UB52 you reviewed a few years ago. Thinking the new MoFis would be an ideal upgrade. What would be the main improvements? Thanks, Josh. Um, there would be a number of improvements. To be honest with you, the UB52s, I celebrated the heck out of those, and I think that they were a fine speaker, especially for what they were. I mean, it's like that's a gateway drug type of a speaker. But you're moving into better materials for the drivers. So you have a soft dome tweeter, you have paper cone woofers. So the first thing you're going to notice is that the tone and the texture of instruments just sounds more natural. It sounds more realistic. And another big thing that you're going to gain is dynamics and scale. So as dynamics happen in the music and passages start to wake up, are you kidding me? I mean, there's only so much the UB52 can do versus any of the newer MoFis. The MoFis are going to just slap them and be like, "Get out of here! Get out of here!" I mean, they'll wake up like the sound shed in a very profound way. And I don't know which specific MoFi that you're talking about. I spent time with the tens and then obviously the newer triple eights, and in both of those, they have substantial scale and dynamics. So the music is going to come to life. It's going to be more like emotionally engaging. It's not going to it's going to wake up your entire room in a very profound way. Um Hoobs Groove says, "What do you think of Fell Audio CD player? I've never heard of it. I'll have to look that up." Victor says, "Just want to say I love the channel. Keep up the good work." Victor, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I almost asked for a refund on my Caledons today. Ordered them May 27th, 2024. Thought I might get them for Christmas, maybe next year. I'm really sorry to hear that. And I wish that I could do something about that. I really genuinely wish that I could do something about that. But I'm not making the speakers, I'm not. And so I can only hope that whatever issues, manufacturing problems that Clayton has faced, I hope that those are behind us now and that you guys are going to start getting those speakers. That'll be great. Uh, Tommy Kehoe, hey Ron, ever thought of representing any audio brands in the sound shed? Like as a dealer? No, no, I think that as soon as I move in that direction, being a dealer, I think that that would make my life as a reviewer that much more difficult. And having to deal with folks that are suspicious, rightfully so, even of course, like the elephant in the room is Danny. Like I've known Danny for a decade, and I helped him start his channel on my channel, and so people were like, well, of course you're just going to say nice things about, Danny's products, which those I can understand why somebody would say that, but they don't know my heart and they don't know that I'm actually the opposite of that. And as a person, that whether it's Clayton, Andrew Jones, Danny Ritchie, like I consider these guys like friends. Like I'll talk to them from time to time. It's not like we're on the phone all the time, but I talk to them, pretty often. And it's like I desperately want them to succeed because I care about them. And because I care about them and I desperately want them to succeed, when they make something that isn't great, I absolutely tell them, it's like, no, don't do this. Like, this sucks, man. Like, don't do that. Like, in the case of Danny, I don't really have to worry about it because it seems like the guys, every speaker that he comes out with, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Oh, here's another great one. Um, so, there's that. Um, but if I was to move in the direction of being a dealer where now there's compensation involved, like there's financial interest. And right now there is no financial interest with any of the companies that I work with. And there never has been. There's no, I'm not getting paid for, kits sold at GR Research or MoFi sold, Andrew's selling or any of the ELACs that were sold. There's no financial interest. There's just genuine enthusiasm of like, this is a great speaker and this is why I like it. And these are the things about it that I like. And, now it's up to you and you can make that decision. But even with, this prototype speaker that Danny and I are working on, and there's going to be 3 different models eventually. right out of the gate, first conversation we had to have is, will there be any kind of financial interest on my end? And I made the decision. This was me talking to my wife, making my decision. I said, no, I'm fine. I don't need any money out of this. I don't care about that. What I care about is people putting speakers in their rooms and loving them as much as I love them. That's what I care. That is the reward that I'm after. And finding that joy and that, peace in this crazy world of like, oh, thank you, Ron. This sounds incredible. That's where my passion comes from. Is it's the reason I started this channel. And early on, I had this naive and crazy idea like that I could help save HiFi because I felt like it was dying. And I hope that in one way or another, maybe I have helped it, along the way. I that's where my passion is. And the money, we're fine. We're fine. We do okay here, and I don't need anything extra. So that's that. Yamaha NS 5000 review, I could make that happen. That would be a cool one to check out. I could definitely make that happen. I could probably reach out to Safe and Sound, and they'd probably send me that. Um, Anyone know the number count we are looking at for the Caledons to catch up with production? I'm glad that you asked this because I will tell you, if you go to their website, the Caledon website, there is a forum there. Asking that would be a good idea because I know that Clayton is involved in the forum, and that would probably be answered in that forum. I'm hoping. So maybe give that a shot. Hobbs, thank you. NX Studio. Oh my gosh. The studio. NX Studio. I feel like an idiot. Let's take a look here. Bryson Hicks is saying, hi, I'm new to your channel. Thank you, Bryson. But I've enjoyed the reviews I've seen as well as your candor. Do you listen to much DSD, and do you find it worth the trouble over the convenience of streaming? I don't. I don't. I I tried some DSD samples recently, not that long ago, and I gotta be honest, I wasn't, like, blown away. I wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible." Now, a lot of that was just the type of music that was on the sample. It just wasn't my cup of tea, so I wasn't really all that engaged. But I haven't really felt the desire or the need to get into DSD. And that's not to say that I'm missing out on something, because just like I was talking about earlier with all of these op amps, I've been missing out on these little things. So I very well might be missing out on DSD, and it might be mind-blowing and incredible, but I've yet to experience it. So I'm not the authority on YouTube to be talking about DSD. I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm happy to admit that I don't know much about it, and I haven't been diving into it at all. So Samuel Lord says, hi, Ron. To make the ultimate system, great preamps ought to have multiple channels with drop-in, line-level crossover sections for each driver. Those parts can be better than any speaker parts. So Samuel, that very well might be the case, and that's great. So again, like this is all good conversations. Like there's a lot of folks out there that are like, passive is dying if it's not dead. Active is the way to go. And that's fine. Or fancy pants preamps with all of this flexibility that he's talking about. Hey, that's great. And as I get those products in for review, that's my time to kind of put them through their paces, and then I make up my own mind, and then I go back to the crime scene, and then I offer it up to you guys and say, well, here you go. What do you think? And I guess a good recent example of this, and I'll probably get myself in trouble, but I don't really care, is, all that Mark Levinson stuff that was sent over. And I really appreciated, the, the fact that they sent me that stuff. It's what was it, $160,000 worth of gear, and this digital digital amplifier that it's has all this C-wave algorithms and DSP and stuff like that. But I gotta say, man, like, nah, it didn't really blow my mind in any capacity, in any way. So maybe that's just the wrong avenue and that's just not what I'm chasing, or the sound, it's supposed to be really advanced and interesting, a breakthrough, a revolution. And for me, I'm going, I don't hear it, man. Like, and I would invite you to come over, sit down and listen to the system that I have set up right now. You want to hear something that's going to bend your mind in a profound way. We just had some old school New Record Day fans come out. I don't want to name drop or anything, but they're subscribers to the channel, and they were visiting Danny, and they stopped by the sound shed and they listened to this prototype system that I have set up right now. Nothing active, all passive stuff, everything passive. In fact, on tubes. And I played like 10 to 15 seconds of the first track, and he's looking at me, and this isn't like a newbie. We're talking like a seasoned audiophile. He goes, "Is there surround sound in here?" Like I almost want to like throw a rock at him. I was like, "Really, bro? You think I got surround sound in the sound shed? Are you out of your flipping mind? No, it's not Dolby Atmos. Like, get out of here with that nonsense." And I was like, "No, it's those two speakers right there." And for the rest of the evening, eh, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that he was blown away. Like, this is mind bending. Like, it broke his brain. And every time I sit down and I hear it, it breaks my brain. And I'm not using anything that is state of the art. There's nothing about it that is like fancy pants room correction. It's like, no, this is just tried and true stuff. So, Ron, little idea for testing the KEF Q Concerto Meta against the old 70, 72, 75 SP1004 Concerto to see how far I've come in 50 years. My setups got the 70s version and it's on another level. I would love to check out the Concerto. I know that Aaron, shout out to Aaron's audio channel, or Aaron's audio corner, pardon me. Um, he won't shut up about the Concerto. That was a friendly dig. Aaron's a great guy, just stand up guy. I would love to have him come out to the sound shed and hear what I got cooking up. I think he would be like, Ron, you are crazy with all of this stuff, and you might be onto something. I think he'd have a lot of fun, but that's a great idea, and I'd be happy to do that. What is my reference today? So, reference items in my system. We have the NUO Zenith, we have the Maydac. Um, Preamp is pending. It's been changed out quite a bit, but it has been the Serene for a while. I've been exploring using my Dot Audio Tube preamp, which is a bad idea to use that as a reference because you can't buy those anymore. They're gone. And rest in peace, Gary Dodd. I wish I could have met you, my friend, but I feel like I'm hanging out with you every time I listen to your gear. Brings tears to my eyes, man. It's just so beautiful sounding. And so uh I'm fortunate that I have that preamp, and in fact I have two of them, and I'll put that in. I've been putting that in lately, and I've even been trying that Dot Audio DAC, which allows me to throw in different op amps and op amps here that I have, and exploring that. And I've been stuck on that system for a while. So those are core items in terms of speakers. The XLS Encore has been my reference stand mount speaker, and the reason why I transitioned to that being a reference, the XLS Encore, is because it's no longer just a kit. You can buy those fully built, and so I was like, okay, well now it's a fair game. Like, okay, now you can buy a fully built pair of Encores, and so that gave me the freedom of saying this isn't just a kit. And they are, again, going back to what I was saying earlier on the live stream, they're my favorite speaker that GR Research offers because of the value proposition. And my heart is still with the newcomer to HiFi, and I'm not going to convince them to get a $2,000 speaker. I'm not, or above that, or $5,000 speaker. It's like under 2K, I might be able to convince them into doing that. And if they buy it as a kit, then it's game over. I mean, you can do Encores, fully fleshed out under $600, and so it's like, yeah, game on. Anyways, Encores, for sure. The rest of the stuff is always moving around and I'm trying different stuff out. Nothing that is like concrete always being used, but the Madak and the Zenith has been staples here at New Record Day for quite a long time, to the point where definitely they are reference at this point. Let's see here. Not Slip says, how would you recommend one go about figuring out the weakest link in their system? I have Revel Performa 3 F208s, Adcom GFA 5802, NAD M15 SSP. Trying to decide what to upgrade is the biggest pain. You know, the way I'm going to answer that is I don't know. And I'm going to give you my advice based on my experience, which is removing one item from the system for a while and putting something in there if you have access, borrow it from a friend, whatever, excuse me, and leaving it in the system for a while. Doing a quick A/B is great. You know, if you're in a room that is up to task, you can quickly figure out differences. But I think that if you're struggling, and I did this for many years, struggling to go, what is the difference here? What is happening? My advice to you, not Slip, is take something out and then forget about it, and then put something else in there for a while, to the point where you have truly even forgotten about it. Like, oh crap, where did that, whatever went? Then put it back in your system. That's when you'll know. I think that has been kind of a good way for me to figure out DACs, especially before the sound shed, where now it's like, it's pretty obvious. You can put stuff in here quickly and go, okay, I see what's going on here. Um, but if you don't have the luxury of having a room that is well treated, it might be difficult because you're fighting the room. The room is always fighting what you're hearing. It's going to make it difficult to hear. We're talking about subtleties here, folks. These aren't big, massive differences. Most of the time, it's subtle differences. And so, taking something out and forgetting about it, and then putting it back in is usually the easiest way to figure it out. That would be my recommendation or my method to find out what is the weakest link. And I would do that one thing at a time. And of course, that's tricky because you need something to replace it with. So, steal something from your audio buddy. All right. So let's see here. We're at an hour and 22 minutes. I'm going to just answer a couple more questions. I'm going to see if I've missed anything with the super chats because I want to be respectful with that. Here we go. Adam Frost is saying, thanks for all your advice, Ron, buying the Pontus 15th since I was leaning that way and you sealed the deal for me. Adam, you're not making a bad choice at all. My review of that DAC is going to be enthusiastic, and I am telling you the truth that if it sucked, I would have told you there's some things here that I think that it's lacking, and that's not true. It's a very, very great sounding DAC, and you will hear it and you'll piece it together. I don't measure electronics. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the tools. I wouldn't even know what to measure, but the sound clips and my impressions, you'll be able to quickly put this together that the Pontus 15 is no joke, and it has body. And that was the thing that I immediately heard when comparing it to my May DAC, which is $5,000. So now we have a $2,000 DAC that just showed up, to a $5,000 DAC and is like, hey, buddy, can I hang out with you? And the May DAC was like, okay, you can hang out with me. And that's how that went. So, yeah, super solid. All right, let me take a look here. Samuel Lord says, Ron, please denounce gently the practice of using inbuilt high-pass crossovers and receivers to protect mains from subs frequencies because stacking crossovers, often cheap one, is a tad evil. Yeah, Samuel, I'm not the authority in this, but I know where you're going. And for a long time, I used those Harris. You know what I'm talking about? Those Harris Labs inline filters. It's not a good idea. For that very reason, not a great idea. I think you need to be very careful and you need to know what's happening when you are playing around with that stuff. And so, at the very least, get to know REW, Room EQ Wizard. It's free. Get yourself a USB microphone. You got to start looking at slopes. You have to understand what's going on. And um, granted, if you just like the way that it sounds, and you can be done with it. But if you're investigating and you're in investigation mode of like what's happening to these slopes and how are they falling into each other and what is this inline filter doing, I think you also need to see it. You need to see what's going on, and I think that will be helpful. So, will I denounce it gently? Yeah, I will. I think that you need to be careful with those things, but I think there are still ways of doing it right. Danny has some inline filters that he offers that is a gentle roll off, very gentle. And I think stuff like that you can get away with without damaging or causing issues with crossovers or anything like that. I don't think you're going to run into those issues. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna finish up. I've got work to do. I have to finish up the review for the Pontus 15, and it's going to be kind of a busy week. We're going to be celebrating the twins' birthday this weekend. We're going to be going to Great Wolf Lodge, and so my week is a little bit shorter. And so normally I try to cover every question, and I feel bad that I'm having to dip out on you guys a little bit early. But here's my promise to you is I bought a secondary cam a while back for this purpose to make my life easier of doing these live streams. And this has been something that Sarah has been urging me and to do is like, hey, those live streams are fun and you seem like you enjoy it. And I do. And she's like, you should try to at least do that once a week. And so I'm not saying that right out of the gate, I'm going to make that promise to you. But what I am going to do is I'm going to promise that I'm going to do more live streams. I'm going to try to work myself up to carving out the time to do this. And so we'll be able to hang out with you guys a bit more. So, yeah, also hit the like button. That helps get this more views and the whole algorithm. If you missed it earlier, anybody at least here in America, we're celebrating Veterans Day. And I just want to give my humble thanks to any veterans out there that have risked everything. It means a lot to me. So, yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you for, man, just making this wild and crazy idea that I had so many years ago of just talking about hi-fi, making it a reality for me. I really appreciate you. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day.